All right, last one for now. Hopefully, this video will round out and give you a sense for how to get your data set up. If there are other things you need to do to filter that I haven't shown you here, hopefully you can use the principles that I outline in these 3 videos to figure out how to do that. If you have other things with data cleaning that you're interested in, leave a comment and I'll try to get to it promptly, though my track record of prompt video follow-ups could be maybe leave something to be desired. But this video is going to be about looking at the time people spend on the study. So if we look at the names in the data set, one thing you'll see is that there's a duration in seconds variable. So it's the 6th variable in the data set. Duration in seconds is how much time people spent doing the survey in seconds. Now, I would prefer that to be in minutes because seconds isn't a very useful number for me. So I'm going to create a new variable called dat1 $time. The name of the variable is time. The data set is dat1, dat1. The $, says, okay, put this new variable in this data set. And note now that I have 3 data sets going. I have DAT, capital DAT, and capital DAT1. And so I do need to tell R where to put it. But even if I only had 1 data set going, you still have to tell R where to put it. Okay, so dat1 $time equals left paren dat1 $duration, and the D in duration is capitalized, dot in seconds dot. And so you have to type it exactly. Now RStudio will start autofilling this, and so you may not have to type it exactly. You may be able to autofill, but R is very precise. It has to be exactly as it shows up in your data set. So anyway, duration in seconds, close parentheses, divided by 60. That is going to give us a minutes variable. Now I'm going to get a table for this time variable that I just created. And it's not terribly fun to look at this table because it's every, individual amount of time. But it does show us the most time somebody spent. One person spent 565 minutes on this study. Now, I want to get rid of that person because that person probably listened to the podcast, but they probably walked away, did something else. Maybe they went to bed and, woke up in the morning. They left the survey open for a really long time before completing it. And I don't know how much time passed between when they listened to the podcast and when they answered questions about the podcast. So I'm definitely getting rid of this person that spent way too long on the experiment. 563, 193, 182, 160, and 62.7. So I think there's a big drop off between 160 and 62. Did my study require 60 minutes? No, absolutely not. It should have taken about 12 minutes to do. But, I know that this person probably listened to the podcast within an hour of filling out the responses to it. And so with these people, whatever, I'm pretty much fine with keeping them in. You might disagree. You might say, no, if it takes 15 minutes, I don't want anybody that took more than, 45 minutes. So, that's up to you. That's your own judgment. Now, if we scroll all the way up to the top, we can also see if there are people who sped through it. So the fastest anybody did it was 7.5 minutes. And we have an 8, an 8.7, an 8.9. Now, the podcast itself is about 5 minutes. So that means that this person answered the post-test questions in about 3 minutes. Am I okay with that? Yeah, I'm okay with that. Would you be okay with that? Maybe not. Maybe you think, hey, it takes 10 minutes to do my experiment, and if you do it in under 10, I'm getting rid of you. Fair enough. I'm not here to judge. But this does just show us the distribution of time that people spent. We can also get a histogram by doing hist dat1 $time, and it'll show us, figure margin's too large. I don't like that. That probably means that I have the window too small. But if I make it bigger, I'm not going to make it bigger because that's going to mess up my recording. Well, you can get a histogram and it'll show you the distribution as well. Okay. Where was I? Let's delete this line since that didn't work. Now, to get rid of the people who spent more or less time than you wanted, here I am just going to do dat1 equals dat1. So we're not creating an additional, fourth version of the data set. We're still working in dat1. So dat1 equals dat1. And then pipe again. So parenthesis, or I'm sorry, percent sign greater than percent sign. Type your pipe. And then filter again. We're still using the same filter. Left paren. And then we're going to say time greater than 5. So what this says is everybody has to have spent at least 5 minutes on the experiment. Now, obviously, the shortest amount of time that anybody spent based on the table we just looked at is 7 minutes. So time greater than 5 isn't going to take any cases out of my survey. But this is just illustrating, that's probably, I certainly would have the cutoff at least 5 for my experiment because I know the podcast is 5 minutes. And then I'm saying, and time less than 100. So that's going to get rid of the 5 people that spent more than 100 minutes doing the experiment. So if I run this, now it filtered the data set by that, and we'll see if I do nrow dat1. It's 1181 instead of 1186. So it deleted those 5 people that took way too much time on the experiment. So that's how you can filter your data set by the amount of time that people spent on the experiment. Now we've gotten rid of people who failed the open-ended quality check by basically manually identifying them as having problematic answers and giving them a 1 on a column that we named remove. Then we got rid of people who, for whatever reason, weren't able to or didn't want to finish it by getting rid of the people who had a really large non-response in the post-test. And then we got rid of the people who spent too long on the study. Now, all this smaller, cleaned up version of the data set lives in the R object called dat1, but it doesn't live as a file on my computer yet. I need to save this, and so I'm going to go up to the top and do write.csv parentheses dat1 comma, and then I'm going to name this pod experiment January 12th 2024.csv. So this is going to put a file in my working directory with the name I just gave it here. I always recommend including dates. I'm actually going to also include underscores in the date so it's easier to read so that I know what my most updated version is. You might be tempted to call it, clean data. But if you do that a lot, eventually you'll have 100,000 files on your computer called clean data, and you'll never know what goes with which. So I'm naming this pod experiment Jan 12, 2024. And that's going to put a CSV file with this name, and it's going to contain the data set we just created. And that's going to live in my working directory. So if you don't know what your working directory is, you can say get wd, oops, I guess it's lowercase, wd, and it'll show you where your working directory is. Or you can set a new working directory by going session, new session. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. Oh, well. You can set a working directory. Well, it's going to get mad at me. You can set your working directory in that session submenu. So hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully that showed you a lot about cleaning data. And if you have some other things that you'd like to see how to do in data cleaning, go ahead and let me know, and I'll try to get a video up faster than last time.